sold 2 for $30,000 each. Yeah, Ponderosa got 40,000 for a woolly jack. Then I had a wait list for the wait list, and I was like, this is getting wildly out of control. The sweetest farm animal you're ever gonna own. They're really, really smart and super, super affectionate. Bunch of little weanlings here.
Aw, they're adorable.
Yours blocking the camera. Here we go.
So who do we have?
This one is Stardust. She's actually one that I'm keeping. And then this one is Trudy right here. And we got tiny little Marshmallow.
Hey, I'm Dr. Elliott Garber, and this is Creatures, where animal people talk business. Today I'm sitting down with Tara Pilonero of Stay a While Farm in Hinton, West Virginia. Tara is really the leading breeder of woolly miniature donkeys in the country. If you've never seen one, picture a miniature donkey with a thick shaggy coat, hair tufts coming out of its ears, and a soft flopped over mane. They look like a tiny teddy bear stuffy on hooves, which is why a single woolly jack recently sold for $40,000. I've gotten to know Tara a bit over the last few years. She's bred some of my genets to her woolly jacks, and I actually have 4 of them back on her farm right now. We follow Tara's path as an animal kid from the beginning, getting into vet school and then deciding on animal science instead. How she's built a 60-donkey operation with customer demand that grew so fast she had a wait list for the wait list. Why she moved to online auctions in 2023 and nearly doubled her revenue in 2 years. The genetics of what actually makes a donkey woolly. Selling animals internationally to France, Australia, and the UK. And finally, the single biggest myth people get wrong about donkeys, miniature donkeys especially. Let's get into it. Hey, Tara, thanks so much for joining me. It's great to see your face again.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this with you.
Yeah, so this is a little bit unique because we've actually met in person a couple of times. I found your Facebook page, I guess, probably 3 or 4 years ago when I first started digging into the miniature donkey thing and realized that there was this amazing type of miniature donkeys, which are especially long-haired and woolly. And because I love all things woolly, I couldn't resist kind of learning more about them. Of course, I had just gotten some Highland cattle too, so it seemed like a natural fit with the same bangs and wavy mane and all that good stuff. So anyway, we've ended up working together over the last couple of years. You've been kind enough to take a few of my genets for breeding to your woolly jacks and have had some really cute babies as a result. So, and you actually have 4 of them back now just this month. So looking forward to next spring when we get to see what the new crop of foals looks like.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them too. It should be really nice.
Yeah, so let's dive right into it. First question that I want to make a habit of asking everyone was if you were always kind of grew up as an animal kid, turned into an animal adult, or if it was something that matured and changed over time.
I've always loved animals. I actually decided when I was 6 years old that I wanted to be a vet. And while I pursued that and I did
Oh, wow.
eventually even get into vet school, I made the decision to not go, just because it seemed like a financially unwise decision.
Wow,
So
that
I
was
didn't do
forward
that.
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I mean, I ended up working in animal research and now doing the farming.
Okay, cool. So when did you first kind of move onto a farm or property yourself, or did you grow up on one?
No, I grew up in the suburbs.
Oh,
I
okay, me
wanted to
too.
live on a farm, but
Exact same story.
so my parents moved us to a rural area when I was 16, and I didn't get farm animals, until I was 18. I got a
Okay,
horse when I was 18.
nice.
So,
And what's the story of that first horse?
yeah, I had no business owning the first horse that I got. He was basically unhandled and not trained, so
Oh, wow.
that was not a good situation, but I ended up eventually getting a safe horse, and yeah, and then a couple years after that, a friend came over, parents' friend, and asked if anybody wanted a miniature donkey. They had one that they had rescued. And
Huh.
I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." And so I got my first gelding, Luigi. That's how I started in donkeys in '96.
Oh, wow. Okay. And was he registered or woolly or neither?
Nah, just a regular gray dun, no light points
Okay.
gelding. He was pretty big boy too. He was about 35.5 inches tall.
Okay. Got it. So
So
that's right at the top of the mini donkey range. Is that right?
yeah, yeah, 36 is the upper limit. So
Okay. Yeah. So, and in miniature donkeys, like in horses, the measurements are taken over the shoulder at the withers. Is that right?
correct.
Okay. Yeah. Unlike in for the cattle community, the miniature cattle, it's supposed to be over the hip, kind of over the back at the
Right.
point of the hip. So often
Mm-hmm.
works out similarly, but you have sometimes kind of horse people coming into that crowd who are used to something else. Or do you measure to the point of the hip or over the back? There's all these kind
Right.
of questions and
Right.
gray areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when was the first time you ever kind of made any income associated with animals, I guess, apart from your actual job working in a lab or in research?
Probably when I was a little kid, I had some gerbils.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
And I, against my parents' judgment, decided to breed them.
Nice.
And of course, they made babies. So my parents did not want us to have 10 gerbils. So they arranged for me
Makes
to
sense, yeah.
sell them to the pet store. And so I
Oh,
sold
okay.
my first litter of gerbils to the pet store. I was probably, I don't know, like 8.
Oh, wow, nice. Actually, that's another similar story to me. I had a female hamster when I was probably about the same age and really wanted her to have babies and actually put a little ad in my school newsletter for a male hamster, kind of like a wanted ad so that they could go on a date. Actually still doing that with you now with the donkeys. And so I sold those babies to a few of my classmates eventually.
Nice, nice.
Yep. And so you probably don't remember what those gerbils sold for, but once you kind of got into the young adult or adult stage and started taking it more seriously, do you remember the first kind of real animal that you sold and what you got for it or what the story was?
It's probably that very first horse that I had. I ended up selling him to the person. It was a horse trader that I bought my first horse from. Well, my second horse actually, and I traded him partial trade on
Okay.
the horse that was more appropriate for me to
Nice.
have.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Kind of put a little bit into it, hopefully make him a better animal for someone else and find a good fit for yourself. Yeah, so then how did you end up going from the one gelding mini donkey to deciding, hey, I want to focus on registered woolly mini donkeys in particular?
So in I want to say it was 2006, probably 2006. I decided that Luigi needed some donkey friends instead of just the
Okay.
horses. And so I went and found a couple of miniature genets that were local. And they were registered. They were just regular hair donkeys. So those were my first two actual registered miniature donkeys, first genets.
Okay.
And I just got them as pets. I had no intention of breeding or anything. And then one day I started goofing around on the internet and came across an auction.
Oh,
And
nice.
this auction had a woolly donkey in it.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was the first woolly donkey that I'd ever seen. And I was like, wow, that is a gorgeous animal. It was the elm sale that they used to hold up in Ohio. And that
Okay.
miniature donkey sold for, I want to say it was like $26,000. And that
Wow.
was back in, I think, 2007.
Oh, wow.
Um,
I had no idea that there was still such a premium on them back
well,
then.
I mean, that was really like the first one hitting the market, really, that,
Okay.
the public market that people were aware of anyway.
Got
Um,
it.
And so obviously I wasn't going to buy a $26,000 donkey in 2007. That was a lot of money. I didn't have that. And so I did track down the breeder though, and it was the MGF herd. So Barb and Jerry McRoberts out in Nebraska. And I did end up buying my first Jack and a Jennet from them. So I still have the
Okay.
Jennet. That's MGF Bananarama.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, she's
Oh,
actually just
nice.
had a foal a couple days ago. This is going to be her last foal. She's going to be retired now.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
And then the
Oh,
Jack I
cute.
ended up eventually selling to Australia. So he shipped
Okay.
over to
So that was your
Australia
first
eventually.
adventure with exporting an animal? Or?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. MGF Gorky Park. He was the first one that I exported overseas.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, I had a question about that a little later, but maybe we can get into that now because I know you've also now sold some other donkeys to France and maybe a few other places. So I think that's something that most breeders don't even want to kind of mess with or explore because it just seems so complicated, not worth the while. But it must feel like it's worthwhile for you, and you must have kind of some hints on how to tackle that.
Well, I mean, it was definitely overwhelming the first time I did it. I had no idea how to do any of that. But it's really not that hard. There's a couple of exporters down in Texas that are used to handling miniature donkeys, and so you really don't have to do a whole lot. It's just like shipping within the US. You just have to make arrangements with one of the export facilities and your client to just transport the donkey down there. Um,
Okay.
and they take care of everything else.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess if you think about the fact that horses are shipped all over the world all the time for competitions and things, then maybe it becomes less intimidating since I imagine in most cases the donkeys are treated very similarly to horses.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these
Okay.
exporters also export horses, so
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. Okay. Well, so you had the four woolly donkeys then, and that was, I guess, maybe 15 years ago. Still, at what point did it stop kind of feeling like a little side hobby and something that could actually be a real business to help support your livelihood?
I think I started taking it seriously in 2008. Um, and I think I had my first foals born in 2009. And I think at that point I was like, this is pretty cool. I wanna pursue this more. So I started
Okay.
adding more donkeys, and yeah, so
And you were at your
it's
current
grown.
farm in West Virginia then?
No, I was not. I actually lived down in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Was that closer to Blacksburg? Because I know you were working at the vet school there. Are you still working there or no?
I worked in the Department of Animal Sciences, and yeah, I was closer to there to work there. And I actually left there about a year.
Wow.
Now I'm just on
Uh-huh.
call as basically as their mass spectrometry service engineer on call.
Okay. Oh, nice.
So I barely ever go in unless they're having problems with their instruments.
Okay, cool. And that's great. And then so the main gig then now is the donkey business and the farm?
Hmm.
Okay. Congrats. That's great. So, moving kind of into the last few years, I know that you made a shift from having a wait list and selling everything privately to deciding to try an online auction. And I think the first one was in 2023. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that is right.
Okay. Got it. So, what was your kind of evolution of your thinking on that, or why did you decide to make the change?
So at the time, um, this is still post-COVID times, and the interest in the donkeys had grown exponentially. I guess everyone got tired of living in the suburbs, went out and bought a hobby farm and needed to populate it with cute animals. So, so interest started growing exponentially, and my wait list started getting into the hundreds. So in order to manage the wait list, I actually created a prepaid wait list.
Okay.
So that worked for a year and a half or so. And then at some point I had to limit the number of people obviously that are on a prepaid wait list. And then I had a wait list for the wait list, and I was like, this is getting wildly out of control. So at that point, I started looking at other options, and I saw some of the mini Highland cow people using this online auction platform, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And I checked it out and decided, well, I guess I'll give it a go. It seems to be working pretty well for many Highland people, so I gave it a try, and it's been a great thing. So it makes managing the demand a lot easier, and yeah, great.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that was right off the bat, the very first one. You were like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna work," and should have done this
Yeah,
a long time ago, or what?
yeah,
Yeah.
basically,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So, how were you trying to price your animals before the shift to the auctions? Like, I guess for me, if I had a huge wait list like that, then I would probably immediately jump in my mind to, well, maybe I'm underpricing if this many people want them at that price. Yeah. Tell us about kind of how you were coming up with your pricing at that point.
I was just kind of winging it, I guess. I mean, I did ask some of the other breeders around what they're charging and kind of based it a little bit off there. I did probably sell a little bit higher than some of them. So it was, I guess, at a level where some people were turning it down, and then eventually somebody would. So,
Okay, cool. And did you see a immediate jump in the prices from your shift from the private sales to the auctions, or was it kind of around in the same range? So you felt like your private pricing had been market rate at that point?
um, it was pretty close to on par, maybe a little bit higher than what I was asking. But it was fairly close when I first started
Okay,
doing the auctions.
got it. Yeah, that's great. So when you set up your auctions, how do you decide on kind of a starting bid? And do you do any reserve prices with that just in case the bidding doesn't get as high as you would like?
Yeah, so all of them do have reserve prices on them. It's just whatever I'm comfortable selling the animal at. Uh, as far as the starting bid prices, what I was doing in the past was I would set the starting bid at half of the reserve, but I had so many people
Okay.
asking me if that was what the animal was for sale at that I decided this particular auction that I'm just gonna start it at 0 and
Okay.
let it go, because there were just too many people asking if they could buy them for the price, the starting bid that was showing. So, to avoid all of
Yeah.
those
Well, I would
questions.
like to think that I'm guessing that you'll probably see even more bidding activity and engagement with starting at a lower price point. As I've kind of watched and studied auctions over the years, I've seen, and I think this is generally kind of accepted among the big eBay sellers and things like the lower you can start the auction at, the better because you get more people kind of emotionally invested in the bidding process and thinking, hey, there's a chance that I could actually win this. And for better or for worse, that's what ends up keeping people involved at the end. I think if you start at a higher price, then you're not going to have the same number of people or the same people with the same kind of idea that, hey, I want to make this happen. I'm excited that I could actually win this animal. Yes, I'm going to click just one more time and see if that does it, that kind of thing.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. So it'll be exciting to see. And so your upcoming auction is on April 25th, right? A Saturday?
Correct, yep. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always try
And
to
you
do it on a
typically run
Saturday.
them on kind of just a Saturday afternoon for a few hours. Is that right?
Yeah, so I've been starting it at 10 AM Central and ending it at 3 PM, and oh, Eastern Time, I'm sorry. The reason I do it that way is so that people that are bidding over in Europe aren't up all night trying to bid on an auction, because we do get a fair number
Okay.
of Europe. You pick a time
Well,
where
that's great.
participating. So,
And when you say a fair number, is that like 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or more than that? I guess I would have thought maybe there was
um,
1, 2 European bidders at most.
there's probably at least a dozen European bidders
Oh,
registered
wow.
in the
Okay,
auction,
cool.
and there's usually 1 or 2
And is
bidding
that
every
to
time.
okay. And is that are they mostly in France? Are the Woolies more popular in France for some reason, or is it other countries too?
No, it's other countries too. There's several people in the UK, Netherlands, a couple in Australia. So,
Okay. Wow, that's great. And do you I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but do you have kind of an estimate on the total number of bidders you've been getting on your last couple auctions?
so there's over 400 people that are actually registered to bid.
Okay.
Uh, but as far as active bidders, I'd say it's probably in the range of me bidding.
Yeah. What do you think is responsible for that difference between the people who register and then the ones who actually decide to make a bid?
I don't know. I don't really a
Yeah,
serious
I wonder, it
interest, I
feels like
guess. I don't know.
if there could be a way to kind of encourage more of those people who register to get in, maybe you're starting at lower prices will do that to encourage more active bidding early on. So that'll be interesting to see if there's a difference
Yeah,
there
yeah.
with the number of people. So getting into the numbers, and I probably wouldn't have asked you this if you didn't have your auction archives public there on the site, which I appreciate just because I love kind of digging into auction results and trying to figure out the strategies and things, but you have them up there on your site from the last few years. And so it looked like in 2023, the kind of gross from those two auctions together that you did was about 125,000. And then it went up to 190 something in 2024 and 266 2025. So now, of course, we're coming into your first one for 2026 here. Um, what do you think has been driving those increasing numbers? Is it, I didn't actually look to see if it was just more donkeys being sold, or is the market maturing and demand continues to grow, or what?
I think it's a combination of things. I think more people are more people are seeing the woolly donkeys and actually so there's more interest in them. A lot of those people are the miniature Highland people are really
Hmm.
starting to get interested in them. So I think interest and demand is increasing. And there's a supply and demand ratio factor there that's also driving the prices up.
Yeah.
Not that many will. The other factor is I did start about 2 years ago. I did start actually taking some consignments from
Hmm.
other farms in the auctions. So other woolly breeders that I know and trust, and whose programs I also value is in the auction. So those donkeys also stay at their respective farms too. So they ship out from their respective farms.
Okay, got it. And don't have to share, but do you mind sharing kind of how you set up that consignment? Is there a commission fee for that, or what?
Yep, there's a 7% commission fee.
Okay, nice.
That's it.
Yeah, so that's pretty reasonable compared to most of like on premise in person livestock auctions where it's usually more like 10 or 15 per think the commission to the sale yard. So yeah, that seems very fair. And on the auctions, oh yeah, so I wanted to ask you about the kind of marketing strategies because honestly, you don't have a huge social media presence like you maybe could if you really kind of doubled down on that, but it hasn't seemed to hurt you at all in terms of the demand and ability to sell your animals at great prices. So can you share kind of maybe any strategies about how you approach social media and how you think that has helped or hurt you or why you haven't kind of pushed further into that?
Sure. So I do pretty much only use Facebook. I'm trying to dabble a little bit with Instagram. I haven't really been very good at doing much of it. Um, and then so I'd say Facebook is probably my primary marketing tool that I use. And I've been trying to increase my my viewers on Facebook some. So I mean that's definitely improved. But
Yeah, I know.
and then
There's
I
always more that you can do.
and then I also advertise on the Got Donkeys website. And then this year I've also started collecting cell numbers from people so you can sign up to get a text notification.
Oh, okay.
Um and so I have that option available on the website. Be sending
Got it. Nice. Have you ever done any paid advertising on Facebook, or is it all just organic, your own post?
No, I've done some paid advertising. I don't know if it actually does anything, but but I've dabbled with it. It doesn't seem to
Yeah, I know.
produce
Me too.
much,
I've
but
been playing around with it, and it's, I think, yeah, hard to dig into all their different dashboards and figure out the
yeah.
different ways to track what's actually happening from that. Although I think now with some of the AI tools, it's possible to kind of cheat on that analysis and get some insights into what's working a little bit better and what's not. So I haven't dug into that a ton, but I'm looking forward to doing more of that. So moving past the auction, then, do you have any other animal related revenue streams from your farm? Like, it seems like so many people do various types of agritourism, stuff like that. Or do you breed any other animals besides the woolly miniature donkeys?
So we've looked into doing some agritourism, but haven't actually jumped into doing that yet. But it is a consideration. That we also do have a beef cattle herd. We got rid of the
Oh,
vast
okay.
majority of the beef cows, though, because the market with them is just all over the keep all the cattle. So we mostly
Okay.
just keep a few for ourselves now. Gonna dabble a little bit.
Okay.
So I have and I bred two of the gated mares to a gated jack. So I can
Oh, wow.
play.
Is that another kind of tiny niche that you feel like has some growth opportunity or what?
I don't know. It's more just for fun, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I follow someone, I'd have to look to see their name on Facebook, but who kinda they're focused on the Appaloosa mules. They'd breed the mammoth mule or donkeys with Appaloosa and various kind of uniquely patterned horses and get some really beautiful mules. And I just saw one of theirs, I think was like the highest selling animal at a recent horse sale, which was interesting too.
Yeah,
So,
two of my mares are actually Appaloosas. One of them's a Wackaloosa and the other one's a Leopard Appy. So
oh, cool. Okay, so you'll have the potential
hoping to
for
make
some.
some color.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah. Okay. And are you still doing any private sales at all? Or do you just tell everyone, sorry, you have to wait for the next auction?
With the woolly weanlings, I do not do any private sales. They all go to the auction. The only time I ever do a private sale is if I have something with special needs or something that just doesn't fit the auction profile.
Okay.
So
Got it. And so even if someone came offering you a crazy amount of money, you think you'd have the strength to turn it down?
I don't know. I mean, it depends what crazy means. So if it's well and
Yeah.
above what I've been normally getting, then I might consider it. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know at least in the mini Highland crowd, there's been a few stories of people who have been approached by various kind of Middle Eastern princes and things like that who are looking for something very, very specific and want to fly them straight over to their air conditioned indoor life over in the Middle East. So you haven't had that yet, I guess.
no, no, not yet. It's wild though.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they're coming for you.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, if you're up for sharing, what is the highest price you've ever gotten for one of your animals?
I've sold two for $30,000 each.
Wow.
That's probably the highest I've sold so
Okay.
far.
Do you know, is that the highest that you've seen any woolly donkeys go for? Or maybe now that Ponderosa has a few of them, are they getting more than that?
Yeah, Pandrosa got 40,000 for a woolly jack a while back. So, but they know how
Okay.
to market. They have that down. It was the first one that they offered too.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah.
They're
That's
I
for
don't
sure.
have that level of skill at this point. So
Yeah. Well, that takes a lot of work, I think, and also there's some first mover advantage there as well. But yeah, you
yeah.
do a great job with what you're doing. Um, do you? I saw an estimate, maybe it was from your site. I can't remember that there are maybe 350 or so registered woolly donkeys out of 60,000 or something total. Does that sound right to you, or what do you think the numbers look
The
like now?
number might be a little higher now. That figure was from several years ago, so it's probably closer to 400 or 450 maybe now.
Okay.
Um,
Got it. And then on the non-registered side, I know that hasn't been your focus and probably a lot harder to track there, but I think for some of the big social media breeders, registration kind of doesn't matter for anything at all for their customers. Any idea kind of on that market? And I guess this would be a good time to ask about how you actually distinguish a real woolly mini donkey from just a fluffy baby that might be getting sold at an auction as a woolly and it's not.
yeah, I do see that a lot. I like having the pedigree because there's so few woolies out there that if you're going to be breeding, it's nice to know that you're not going to be inbreeding. So I think that's really important, especially when you're dealing with a small population of animals like that. But as far as features of being woolly, I've definitely seen a lot of foals, which tend to be fuzzy anyway, being sold as woolies that are absolutely not woolly. And so there are some defining characteristics of a woolly that you want it that kind of flops over, doesn't stick up straight like a normal donkey mane. A lot of extra hair in their inner ears, so they've got a lot of like hair tufts coming out of their
Mm,
ears. They'll have long hair on their legs going all the way down to their feet. So
okay.
non-woolly, the fuzzy foals, you'll see their body will be really fuzzy, but then their legs will be, normal hair.
Okay.
Not a lot
More
of
sleek.
not a lot
Yeah.
of long hair on the legs. So that's a big one with the foals.
Okay. Yeah, and I know
So
you've
yeah.
you've posted also another thing is kind of the hair on the cheeks going kind of all the way
Yeah,
down around the muzzle. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So the regular foals will have like that hair that comes down over their forehead, so they kind of look like they got a little bowl cut. But then the
Uh,
woolly donkeys actually have that extra hair that even grows around their part of their face as well.
okay. Cool. And it seems like there's some variation in the kind of hair type as well for woolies. Like some is really long, satiny, sleek hair, and then others have the more woolly, kind of crimpy, poof out hair. Is that what you're seeing too? Do you are any ideas on kind of what those variations look like?
Um, I mean, I think it's just really straight hair versus curly hair on that
Okay.
front.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of them have straight hair and that's the real silky looking hair,
Yeah.
and then some of them have more of a curly coat to them.
Okay. And I know you've done some presentations on donkey genetics and coat color and coat types in particular. Would love like the 2-minute version on what we know and what we don't know about how the woolly long haired traits are passed down.
So the gene that's involved in long hair in animals is called FGF5, and that's the gene that causes long hair in all kinds of other animals, dogs,
Okay.
rabbits, and except for Highland cattle, we actually don't know what gene
Hmm.
causes long hair in Highland cattle.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
Huh.
not the FGF5 in Highlands, but
Okay.
all other animals, it's the FGF5 gene. So they did sequence that gene in the Poitou donkeys, and they found two specific point mutations in that gene that causes them to have that long hair.
Okay.
I've tested through UC Davis. UC Davis does have a DNA test for that, and I've tested a few of my woolies just out of curiosity, and a few of them do carry one of those 2 point mutations. But there's also plenty of woolies that in the miniature donkey either one of those point mutations. They
Okay.
probably have a different mutation within that gene. but
Okay. And you haven't
that's
been successful in convincing the UC Davis team to dig in on and find that other mutation, or maybe do it in your own lab at Virginia Tech?
I would have to probably pay the core lab to run the sequencing.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do the sample prep, but I'd have to find the funds
Okay.
to get them to do
Yeah.
the sequencing on it.
We
Um,
need to find a PhD student who is looking for a cool little project or something.
there you go.
Yeah.
So, and the gene itself acts primarily as a recessive gene. There is
Okay.
slight codominant feature to it. So if you get one that is heterozygous, so it carries one gene that's mutated and then the regular gene, uh, those carriers tend to be a little bit fuzzier than normal, but
Huh.
they are not. They're not really bony.
Okay. But all of that for now is just based on kind of the phenotypic expression, like what you
Yeah,
see and those
yeah.
traits that you're identifying. Okay.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay. Well, getting back to your farm, can you share anything about kind of what you think your average monthly costs are for a single donkey, or if it's easier in your whole herd, just for people who are maybe thinking about getting into them? Are they easy keepers, or more expensive than people might think, or what?
I mean, they're pretty easy keepers in general, unless you have a medical emergency situation, and then it can get really expensive really
Yeah.
fast. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely had some five-figure vet bills from the vet school.
Oof. Yeah.
So that yeah, that can. I'm also in a part of the country where hay and feed and stuff isn't terribly expensive,
Hmm.
and we do also bale a lot of our own hay.
Okay.
So that keeps costs down. I also do all of their vaccines myself,
Hmm.
and all the farrier work myself too. So that also keeps costs down for
Okay.
me.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I would say it really depends on where you are and how much you're willing to do yourself, or how much you need to involve
Yeah,
in
makes
helping
sense.
you.
Yeah. Have you ever boarded donkeys or other animals for other people at your farm? No. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And how many donkeys do you actually have right now?
It's around 60.
Okay. Wow. Awesome. And so, and I guess with you cutting down on the beef cattle herd, then you have plenty of pasture to keep everyone happy there and make the hay that you need.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely helps.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So,
And what do you think is kind of the upper limit of numbers where you think you could still have fun with it, or where just felt like that this is too many?
I feel like about 60 is probably my upper
Okay.
limit without actually hiring outside help to
Yeah.
assist.
Okay.
And I have recently started using somebody local to help here and there just on weekends.
Okay.
I might actually start getting a little bit more help because I'm not getting any younger
Yeah.
over here either.
Yeah, that's nice. Man, I can't imagine doing all those hooves yourself. I mean, that alone is a ton of strain on your body and work. But like you're almost a part-time farrier with that.
Yeah, it is a lot, but I mean, it's the little donkeys aren't that hard to do. I do hire a farrier to trim the horses,
Okay.
so the big guys I don't do because that actually is legit manual labor. That's hard
Yeah.
work. So
Yeah,
I
no,
do
I
have
keep
two
telling
big
myself,
donkeys. I do have two big donkeys that I trim, and those are a lot harder to do than the minis.
huh,
So
okay.
it's a big difference.
Like just cutting through the hoof nail itself, or lifting up, holding the leg up, or what?
It's mostly just lifting and holding the leg. I mean, just
Mhm.
the way you do it is just it uses a totally different group of muscles,
Okay.
um, doing the bigger guys, so
Got
the
it.
little guys, I
Yeah.
mean, mine are trained well enough that I can just kinda kneel down on the ground, and I don't have to hold myself in an awkward position, I can just kinda sit
Okay.
next to them and do a foot, so
That's
at least
nice.
with the
Yeah.
vast majority of them.
Okay.
So
That's good. Yeah. I keep telling myself I need to start trying some of that myself because that's probably the biggest expense that I've had with our donkeys so
Yeah.
far is every 6 to 8 weeks or so. It's several $100s. Yeah. And I know there's some great courses for kind of getting some pointers on getting up to speed on that for donkeys in particular. There's someone, Megan something, who has kind of a donkey hoof course in particular that
Yeah, I think
she's been
it's
promoting. But
Megan Hensley, maybe?
yeah, that sounds right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I talked to her about maybe coming on as a guest at some point down the road too. I know she has a new TV show that she's kind of featured on as well about life with donkeys and things like that,
Oh,
which
cool.
I haven't seen, but excited to check it out.
Very cool.
Yeah. Um, so let's see. Coming into kind of the wrapping things up towards the end here, are there any questions that I should have asked you, but I didn't, that you would want to share with people who are thinking about getting into woolly donkeys or mini donkeys generally?
Not really, other than, I mean, they are truly the sweetest farm animal you're ever gonna own. They're really, really smart and super, super affectionately wonderful. So,
Yeah, that's exactly what we found too. And I had no idea, even as a vet who's worked with a lot of different animals over the years, that it's basically like the farm animal that you hope and dream that everyone will be like, but most of them aren't actually like,
yeah,
that just
yeah.
kind of want to hang out with you and don't mind snuggling up with you and having hands all over them and kids hanging on them, all this stuff. So yeah, they're great.
They are. They're so sweet.
Yeah. Well, coming into this, the last few questions, I'm debating on the name for it because most animals, I guess, don't go in a squeeze chute, but it feels like every podcast has kind of a funny name for their last rapid fire questions at the end. So these are our squeeze chute questions. If you had to start a completely different animal business tomorrow, what would it be and why?
So if it couldn't be donkeys, I'd probably either do Appaloosa mules, gated Appaloosa mules, or
Okay.
maybe camels. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a camel?
I've toyed with getting one. So
Yeah,
not just
I've
one,
always
but
dreamed of having camels too. I've always, especially like the Bactrians, maybe because of my obsession with the long hair and the woolly coats and things, but also
yeah.
just love the two humps and think they're so cool for some reason. But I know they,
No,
they don't do as well in our part of the country. Unfortunately, you just have to stay on top of parasite loads and stuff more than in a
yeah.
cooler, drier place. But yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's
I'll
an
probably
animal
get
related?
camels eventually.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
Maybe. I don't know.
Nice. Well, I'll be excited to hear more about that and maybe meet them one day. What's an animal related purchase under $100 that has changed your life for the better and that you'd recommend?
Probably livestock guard dogs. The first livestock guard dog that we got was, I think I paid $50 for them.
Huh.
We'll never. Um,
Okay. Were
they're
they
just
any
absolutely
particular
incredible.
breed, or I know some people kind of cross various of the guardian breeds.
Yeah, I've always had the crossbred. I usually
Okay.
have had the Anatolian Pyrenees crosses.
Okay.
Um, but we've had a couple other different crosses too through the years. We actually do have one purebred Great Pyr that we adopted about a year and a half ago from our vet.
Okay. Oh,
So
wow. And you keep them in the traditional way out with the donkeys all the time, or do they come in and
they're
out of the house, or what?
so the healthy mature ones are, yeah, they live outside, just kind of roam around the farm.
Uh-huh.
As they get older and turn into seniors, they tend to come in the house a little bit more.
Okay.
And that's fine.
Yeah,
But
that's nice.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, honestly, I wouldn't have expected that would be under $100, but I guess that kind of makes sense depending on what kind of setting you're getting it from, and if you're not worried about breeding it yourself or having any special registration background or anything.
Yeah, that was several
Yeah.
years ago, so too.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
But yeah, that was
And
just
then
a
how about,
crossbred one.
yeah, how about a purchase over $1,000?
Mm, that's actually changed my life. Probably my horse Tumbleweed is probably the one. The right answer to that question
Oh,
is gonna
that's fine.
be,
That's a great answer.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I know Doug, the camel guy, in the last episode said his trailer was just something kind of he couldn't live without, and that's was way more than $1,000, I guess. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, what's something most people get wrong about the miniature donkey industry, if you can call it that, or niche?
I think probably the biggest donkey myth in general is that they make good guard animals.
Mhm.
I'd say that's probably the biggest myth out there, especially with minis, which are
Yeah.
far too small to be effective as guardians anyway. But I would say over 50% of donkeys have a tendency to play really rough with small livestock
Hmm.
also. So I mean they're just as apt to injure small livestock as they are to actually be effective guardians.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to hear. And I've been surprised too. That's often the first thing people ask or say when they hear I have donkeys is about, oh, do they guard your cows, my Highland cows? And I'm like, no.
No.
It's more, yeah, if anything, it's the other way around. But yeah, it's funny how that has become kind of a generally understood cultural knowledge somehow. Like, I don't know where that comes from,
Yeah.
movies or books or what. Who would you recommend as another guest for this show?
So the one person that came to mind was maybe Josh Matthias, who has
Okay.
gets HQ Ranch.
Uh-huh.
I know, I think he's got a really cool program going on. He started with camels and moved into all kinds of really cool exotics, and uh, he's got a pretty cool marketing program going on that I think is neat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
I
know he
like to
has
follow
some
because
giraffes now too, which is another one of
I
my dream
know.
animals.
Me too. I wish
Yeah.
and dream that I could have giraffes. I'm sure that'll never happen, but that would be
I don't
so
know, never
awesome.
say never, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a good recommendation. And last question, where can people find you and follow you online?
So I have a website. It's stayawhilefarm.com. And then I also have a Facebook page. It's Stay a While Farm.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining. We'll turn off the recording now and see if we can meet a couple of your donkeys outside in
Okay.
just a couple minutes here. All right, so we're outside with you now.
Yeah. There's a bunch of little weanlings here.
Aw,
I
they're
guess
adorable.
yours blocking the camera. Here we go.
So who do we have?
See. This one is Stardust. She's actually one that I'm keeping. And then let's see, this one is Trudy right here. And let's see, we got tiny little Marshmallow. Hey,
Aw,
Marshmallow,
yeah,
say
I've loved
hi.
your posts about him.
Okay. Um, these two over here, we've got Tada, and that is Trudy next to her. And
Aw,
this one right here. Hi. That's no drama. And right behind her is her bestie, that's Waffles, the little Jack that's in the sale.
okay, cool.
So
Wow, they
that's
are
all.
so beautiful and unique. Well, thanks again for doing this, Tara. It was so fun to talk, and thanks for sharing about your business and journey so far. Look forward to sharing it with others.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great. I really
Okay.
appreciate the opportunity.
Yep. Good luck with the sale coming up. That was Tara Pilonero of Stay a While Farm. You can find her at stayawhilefarm.net or by searching for her name on Facebook. They're based out of Hinton, West Virginia. And speaking of woolly donkeys, Tara has her spring online auction coming up on Saturday, April 25th, 2026, the same day as our Highland Heifer only auction on Creatures. If you've been thinking about adding one of these incredible animals to your own farm, this is your shot. If this conversation was useful, please follow the show wherever you listen and recommend it to one friend who might enjoy it. That's the single best thing you can do to help us grow. I'll see you next time on Creatures, where animal people talk business.